So, alongside the deranged speeches from Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and others at the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service, we also got some subplots in MAGA world. Apparently, it was a time of both healing previous splits and also creating new divisions in MAGA world, as we saw, for instance, Donald Trump and Elon Musk back at it again, apparently deciding to bury the hatchet after Elon Musk called Donald Trump essentially a pedophile on Twitter. But who's gonna let that get between friends? Well, good for them, and I'm glad the bromance is coming back together just in time for Elon Musk to throw a couple $100 million to elect MAGA Republicans in the midterms. And of course, Elon Musk, too, has been one of the top people out there calling for the destruction of the left and for Donald Trump and others to go after their political opponents. Because remember, free speech matters to MAGA only if you are MAGA. If you don't like Donald Trump, then all of a sudden the principles of free speech go right out the window. But apparently one member of the Trump administration did not get that memo, because Tulsi Gabbard went on stage with a policy that seemed very much out of step with where her boss is on the issue.
Freedom. The right to speak even when we disagree. Freedom. I may not agree with what you say, but I will fight to defend to the death with my very life your right to speak. Free speech is the foundation of our democratic republic. We must protect it at all costs, because without it, we'll be lost.
Yes, Tulsi Gabbard says, I may not agree with what you say, but I will fight to defend to the death your ability to say it. And I would just like to know where Tulsi Gabbard was when Jimmy Kimmel got pulled off the air because Donald Trump's FCC chairman told him we can either do this the easy way or the hard way. I mean, it would be great if a reporter or somebody could ask Tulsi what she thinks of what her own boss said just an hour or two after she spoke at the same memorial service.
Many of these people, by the way, are paid a lot of money to do this. They're agitators. They're paid agitators. Remember that? When you see they all have the same beautifully printed sign, every sign is identical, comes out of a top-level print shop. That's not the signs that are made in somebody's basement. Those are paid for by very bad people, and hopefully we're going to be finding out through the DOJ who those people are. At another college, Antifa terrorists shattered windows, threw rocks, and tried to storm the building where Charlie was speaking. It was a really bad one. Often dozens of police officers were needed to prevent left-wing violence. And the violence comes largely from the left. You don't hear that from too many people, do you? And virtually...
Now I realize once again that was the usual Donald Trump word salad in there about signs or whatever, his half-functioning brain came up with. But the truth of it, the heart of it, is that he is once again saying he wants to go after all of his political opponents. That it is now illegal to be liberal or be part of a liberal-aligned group or be funding liberal-aligned groups. And this is the legal authority they're going to use to do that. They're going to associate anyone on the left of the political spectrum as a terrorist. Maybe Tulsi would like to weigh in on that. Maybe Tulsi would like to weigh in on Pam Bondi saying hate speech is not allowed. Which, remember, according to Donald Trump, hate speech now just means speech against him. If you're writing an article about how Donald Trump is a criminal, because he is, or any of the other bad things he's done, which, there's plenty of material there, that's now illegal, he says, from the Oval Office.
Follow up on Charlie Kirk, there's been a lot of talk about free speech this week. Do you see a difference between cancel culture and consequence culture?
Well, I mean, your question's a little trick question.
It's not meant to be.
I'm a very strong person for free speech. At the same time, when you have networks where I won an election, like in counties, I guess it's 2,600 to 525, that's called a landslide times two. When you have that level of popularity or voter support, as I did in the last election, and yet 97 and 94%, different numbers, you see different numbers with different stats, but 97, 94, 95, 96% of the people are against me in the sense of the newscasts are against me. The stories are they said 97% bad. So they gave me 97. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally. You can't have a free airwaves. You're getting free airwaves from the United States government, and you can't have that and say, and somebody that just won an election, and I had to go through this during the election. I think it's a miracle that I can win. When 97% of the stories on the networks are bad, or whatever it may be, whether it's 89, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if you write a bad story about Donald Trump, they're coming for you. At the end of the day, they might not even need to use the powers of government because the media environment now is almost completely controlled by Donald Trump's allies. I mean, let's take a look at this. X/Twitter is owned by Trump's largest donor, Elon Musk. Facebook, controlled by Mark Zuckerberg, who bent the knee to Donald Trump. TikTok will soon be owned by a consortium of people, including Rupert Murdoch and other Trump-aligned billionaires. ABC bent the knee to Trump. CBS bent the knee to Trump. The entirety of media, from social media to traditional media, is completely controlled by billionaires who are Trump-aligned. So yeah, maybe they're going to use the FBI and the FCC and other parts of the federal government to go after speech that Donald Trump doesn't like, but they might not even have to. As we're seeing with the Kimmel episode, the chilling effect on free speech is already happening. Just the threat that the government might go after you is enough to get people off air. And although it's a small amount of hope I have, it is a tiny sliver that appears some Republicans are not down for this, because they know that this pendulum could swing back in the other direction, that once you open up Pandora's box of policing who can say what, that things get bad quickly.
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Senator, do you believe that Brendan Carr's comments were appropriate?
Absolutely inappropriate. Brendan Carr's got no business weighing in on this.
Well, thanks for that, Rand Paul. I appreciate it for what it's worth, and I hope you can get more Republicans to talk about this, or ideally to take legislative action on this, but I'm not holding out hope. And you can take this as either a consolation or as a disturbing fact, but the reality is that this administration is so corrupt, so comically corrupt, that even as there's no accountability and the media environment gets more and more neutered, just having a White House and an administration so full of criminals, the trickle doesn't stop. As we saw with Tom Homan this week, who apparently was taking 50 grand in a brown bag for contracts from the government.
So in late 2023 and some of 2024, the FBI in Texas was engaged in an investigation that was separate. They were looking into a whole nother matter, and they ran into a business executive and official who knew Homan well. And during these conversations with this subject of their investigation, this subject kept saying, Tom Homan can get you contracts in a future Trump administration in exchange for money.
And I'm sure absolutely nothing will be done to hold Tom Homan accountable in the short term, but hopefully Democrats will be back one day and Tom Homan will be held accountable by a future administration who actually believes in the rule of law. And until then, no matter how much you call the people who speak out against you terrorists or fake news or whatever else, we will never stop talking about how corrupt this administration is.